Hello, everybody. Here to do just a quick analysis on Neblio. This is the 1-day chart on Binance. Um, so what I've started with is a retracement back to basically when we hit the bottom after it was first listed on Binance a couple days, and it bottomed out at about 4,000 Satoshis. And then, of course, we had a pretty big spike. This was at the very beginning of January. It capped out about 45,379, and we saw a lot of movement back from there. What I have is my aqua lines here for the fib retracement, but I also have some red lines here based on spikes in volume. So I've got going back a couple weeks here to this spike in volume, taking us to about 13,942 or so. This green candle closed at 13,849. Going back a little bit farther, this spike in volume, this one closed at 15,492, and this candle closed at 18,294. So we take these large spikes in volume to show where we're going to be seeing some major resistance, and so that's where these red lines are coming from. So let me go ahead and zoom in and kind of take us to where we are today. We can see here we have our first spike in volume, our second spike in volume, and our third spike in volume. And this is going back to the statement that I said earlier, which is the trend is your friend. This is when the trend was moving down. Obviously, now we have a slight change in market sentiment, and we're seeing this trend, instead of moving down, we're seeing the trend start to move back up. A lot of the markets are starting to move in this direction. So a lot of questions arise. Okay, well, where do I take profits? Where do I accumulate? We can see and I'll go down to a lower time interval chart here in a moment, but we can see there was lots of opportunities to accumulate. You see a couple days up, and then you see almost an entire day lost. One day up and almost an entire day lost. It took, basically 2 days or so to recover that loss that happened on that day. So we see, down and up and down and up, and we're gaining more. We're getting higher highs and higher lows every time we go. But basically, you're going to see a couple days of profit. We saw 3 days here, 3 days in a row, and then we saw 2 days going down. We just saw 2 days go up, and this is where we're actually hitting that point right there around 13,849, and right now we happen to be at 13,732. And you can see we capped off right there at that level almost predictably. And if we look at it from the perception of back on March 23rd, when we went from approximately 10,750 and we went all the way up to that 13,849, that happened in a single day. That's a lot of volume that happened. And the next day there was a lot of volume, but it was very indecisive. So we saw a big spike up and then a massive sell-off, and then it kind of closed down. Next day it went up. So we're basically trying to predict what's going to happen. What goes up does come down, and what goes down doesn't necessarily go back up. But we know that the way the market works is people sell, they say they take profits, they accumulate. And that looks like that's appearing to be what happens here. So this day candle is just starting, right? So we have lots of opportunity for this to retrace just a little bit before we move up anymore. It's possible that this could go higher. It could go to 15,500. It could go to 18,300. I think a general feeling is all of these alts are starting to move up. So if they were high in the past, chances are pretty good. We're creating the bull where we saw downward and now we're moving back up. So I think chances are good if you are willing to be patient, and by patient I'm thinking probably like maybe a week or two, then you could see some really decent profits on this. It could even go up to 24,000 or so. We've seen a lot of massive spikes, and I'll talk about Burst here in just a little bit. Burst just saw a massive spike just a little bit ago. So at the end of the day, we're looking at this chart. I'll drill down just a little bit so we can see the kind of direction that it has been going. You can see we had a little bit of a flag happen here, and then we broke out. And we're just continuing to see this trend move in a positive direction, but doesn't mean it's always going to continue to head that way. Again, we are, touching just within the last 3 hours. We're touching this level here at 13,849. So there is a chance we could see some downward movement. Some of the things that we've seen in the market is we see a good spike up and then a pullback right to where we began. So this could retrace back to 12.8 before it decides to go for another run. So this isn't really looking like a true impulse wave. We're seeing a lot of waves moving up little by little, and so this could be right here the start of our first real true Elliott wave. So assuming that this goes in the direction that I think it might, an Elliott wave could look something a little bit like this. We have our impulse wave. So we've got our 1 count, and then we've got a 2 count and a 3 count. The third count is usually higher or longer, the longest of all of the waves. A retrace back to our fib retracement, and then where it lands, it's really hard to tell. I don't know that it'll go all the way up to 18,300 in this short amount of time. This just takes us to the 27th of April. So if you're willing to hold, willing to accumulate, willing to play the waves, you could have a pretty big reward at the end of the day. So I hope this helped. Again, feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We want to spread the news. We want to educate the market. I try and give little hints here and there on how some of these waves work, how some of these indicators are used, and hopefully it helped you out. So again, let me know if there's anything that you would like for me to look at. If there's anything you disagree with, I'm more than happy to hear you out. I'm a pretty open-minded guy. So have a good night, everybody.